Hello, and welcome to Solfrita.
I'm Mayra.
And I'm Frederick, or Fred, Fredalicious.
That's what we're going to call you from now on.
That was a mistake.
Yes, mistakes were made. So, on today's episode, we are going to talk about spooky stories. Now, I have a ton of spooky stories because when I grew up, I was fortunate enough to grow up in a haunted house. Like, it wasn't like a little bit of haunting. It was some, I wouldn't say like poltergeist, but there is definitely a presence.
She's actually possessed right now. There's actually like no light in her eyes if you pay enough attention. It's pretty ominous.
Anyway, so it didn't only just happen to me, so it's not like I'm like a crazy lady that has like, crazy story. It happened, my father, who we should give a little bit of background. My dad, very devout Catholic man, believes in God, Jesus, and that's
the Holy Spirit.
Yeah, that's it. There's nothing more that he believes in than that. He was going to be a priest. We'll go into a story about him later until he saw my mom. Anyway, so he didn't believe any of this was happening in the house at all. But, he finally got convinced. So I have stories from him, my mom. I'm going to have maybe one or two of my siblings, whichever ones want to, hop on a phone call. We'll interview them to tell their side of the story. Or if they don't mind, or if they don't want to, then I will, tell the story as I lived it as well. Well, maybe not their stories. Anyway.
Yeah.
So this is not about my old house. This is about a house that he wasn't born in the house, but he grew up in the house. And it's a house on Minnox Street in Detroit. This is how it goes. There was a couple of things. The first, I want to say, week that we moved into the house, I'm going to tell this story. It's with Mina, but she was only like 2 or 3 months old, so she wouldn't remember any of this. But my husband and I were basically doing like the Waltons, saying, okay, good night, Rika, good night, Mayra, good night, Mina. And then we said good night to our Yorkies, which was Tinkers, Pat, and Belle. And so we're all saying that. And the last person to say good night was a disembodied voice that it was like, and the way that they said it was creepy. They said, good night. Now, I heard that. And then I look over at my husband because we're in the bed. I was like, did you hear that? And he was like, hear what? I was like, okay. You didn't hear anything? And he was like, nothing. Go to bed. And I said, all right. My daughter is in her room in the nursery. And I'm like, all right. I was scared. And she was quiet. So I was like, I'm going to bed. So I go to sleep. So the next day, I probably should have waited to tell this story. Seriously, because your dad should get grilled for it.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Well, it's too late now. The story's already
out
halfway through.
So anyway, the next day comes, and it's about 9 o'clock in the morning. No, it was even earlier than that. It was probably like 8:30, 8 o'clock. Anyway, I call my husband because I'm like, he's already at work. And so I call him up and I'm like, hey, how you doing? And he's like, I'm all right. How you doing? You okay? And I said, yeah. He's like, what did you do this morning? And I'm like, yeah, forget that. Hey, let me ask you a question. So you didn't hear anything last night? And he was like, what do you mean, that woman saying goodnight? The color drains from my face. And I'm like, you heard it? And he's like, yeah, I heard it. And I'm like, so why did you say anything? And he was like, because if I had, you would not have let me sleep. You would have had me blessing, using holy water, putting incense in the air, and we wouldn't get to sleep. And we just bought that house like a week prior. Yeah, I figured, forget it. First, I was scared to death. I was like, me and my daughter, it's daylight, by the way. It's 8 o'clock in the morning, and I'm thinking, we're alone in the house with a demon. So I went to go check on her because now I'm afraid for her life because I'm like, oh my God, suppose something happened. And so I check on her. She's fine. She's like just looking at me like, hey, Mom, what's up? Did you hear that woman last night? And I'm like,
creepy, dude.
Yeah. So it was terrifying. And so I never trusted him with stuff like that because I was like, but it was just so creepy the way that she said that. It was eerie because it was in the room. That's the part that got me. It wasn't like it was the neighbor or something like that. It was like in the room. She might as well have been sitting right in front of us in the bed. So that's the story how there's the uneasiness of this house. And I'm like, So.
Ghost house.
Ghost house. So, this next story involves him. I'm sitting on the couch watching, it's probably, I know that it was during, the winter months or, definitely the sun was going down a heck of a lot.
Probably watching a lottery channel. The one with, the balls.
Just Channel 4, Detroit, WDIV.
Sounds about right.
Yeah. And that would have been with Aggie Usedley.
I don't know who that is.
It's the lady who always did the lottery, and then she pulled the balls and stuff like that. And she'd be like, 17. No, you lost, Mayra. I'm like, okay. So anyway.
She'd call Mom out specifically. I remember that. That was scary.
That's what the lottery lady did. So I'm watching television. And my sweet little angel, he was so little and so just tiny, cute, beautiful.
Small, just a little premature, little succulent morsel, A juicy boy.
Yes, well, it's sort of picture right here or over there. I don't know, wherever they put it.
There's a veiny little grape man. Remember that? The gross little veins. Remember that?
No. What are you talking about?
Just gross little premature little...
Ew.
Like a Schmeagol looking.
Okay. So.
Like a Mogwai, kind of.
Well, Mogwais are cute.
Yeah, but after.
Oh, you're talking about a gremlin.
Oh, yeah.
So anyway, he's so cute. Just such a little sweet angel. And he comes up to me and he just, he's 2 years old. He goes to give me a cuddle. And he looks over to the right, and all of a sudden I look at him and I'm like, hey, he's little. I'm like, what's the matter? What are you doing? And he goes, who's that man? Who's that man in the kitchen? And I'm like, what? And I'm like, when he said that, the way he said it, he was like, he's that dark man in the kitchen. And when he said that, I'm using my peripherals because now I'm like, oh, I'm sure your dad bleeped that. So, or did the, from Scott Pilgrim when she did that. Anyway. And I'm like, what? And so I'm looking at him. And as I'm looking down at my son, I can see in the corner of my eye a black shadowy figure. And I'm like, and I knew what it was. It's a shadow person. And he's just looking, and I was holding him, and you could just feel his heart thumping. It was like my hand was just pulsating. And I'm like, okay. And I was like, okay, listen. I need you to listen to me, and I need you to do me a favor, okay? And he was like, who is that man? I was like, are you okay? And he was like, yeah. I said, are you scared? And he was like, yeah. And when you remember that cute little face you just saw, and that face was scared. And, I kind of got emotional. I was going to say emotion.
Thanks for not doing that.
Well, it's too late, I did.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah. So he's just scared. He was like, yeah, I'm scared. Who is that man? And I'm like, listen, I need you to run upstairs as fast as you can. Go as fast as you can and tell Daddy that there's a shadow man in the kitchen. I was like, can you do that? And he was like, yeah. And I was like, can you still see it? And this is the part that got me mad. Because, so do you remember?
I remember seeing the thing. Just, it's like a very vague memory because I was super small.
Yeah.
It was like 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. I just remember seeing like a figure standing by our kitchen, like the opening towards the kitchen. And I remember after that running, but it's pretty spooky.
Yeah. And so, the part that got me mad is that shadow people usually stick to the shadows. Like, they're always in the peripherals. You're not supposed to look at them and see them like regular people. They're supposed to be that quick to get out of your... But this shadow man had the audacity to stare my boy in the face. Okay? And that's the part that got me, because I'm like, he's tiny, he's innocent, and pure gold, man. This kid, all my kids have been. And I would tell you if they weren't. And I couldn't believe that this entity was staring at my boy. So I told, at the time I used to just call him Frederick. I was like, Frederick, I want you to run upstairs as fast as you can and tell your dad that there's a shadow man in the kitchen. Mommy's gonna take care of it. Mommy's gonna yell. And I'm like thinking, that's a lot of information for a little kid. But I'm scared.
All right, got it.
And I said, I want you to run, okay? And he was like, okay. And I was like, now. And so he bolts. And as soon as I turned, it was the scariest thing, because I was expecting not to see the shadow man. And it literally, when I turned my head, he was in the doorway. Like, if, let's say that this is the doorway, he was looking like this. And you could see like almost like his shoulder and like part of his leg. And when I turned like that, I actually could see the darkness. There was no face. There was no like distinct features like, oh, well, he had high cheekbones. It was just shadow. I almost want to say it looked like he had a fedora on. Like he was wearing like a trench coat like type thing, something big, and pants, and squared off shoulders, and a hat, because there was just something. That's what it looked like, a silhouette of like a...
It's like a 1950s, like, stockbroker.
Yeah. And when I looked, I saw him jerk back, and I ran towards him. And I saw the shadow go to the basement. And I was like, oh my God. Oh, look at that. Look at that. Those hairs.
Jesus.
Okay, let me just say... No, you can wash clothes on that. Oh, that's the part that I don't like about these stories. Oh, and I'm not wearing anything protective.
Hi, demons.
Okay, now I'm sweating. We're going to have to take out some of this, because, seriously. So when I looked, I saw he darted out. He went to the basement, and we had like this half door. So it was like a barn door in the kitchen.
It's like a saloon door, yeah.
Yeah, and so I opened it, and I opened up this, there was like a landing, and then there was a door that went to the backyard. I opened it, and then we had bars. We lived in Detroit. So I opened the door, and then I ran downstairs because I knew it was down there. Obviously, I flicked on the light because it's already that winter dark. And so I think it was around October. Yeah, that makes sense. It was probably around...
the veil was open.
Yeah, probably starting to open and stuff. The whole thing is I go downstairs, and I start screaming and yelling, get out of my house! And I'm cussing, beep, 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 all sorts of stuff. Get the out of my house! How dare you scare my son! Get the out! And I felt, again, it's coming back, not as much. Okay. I felt this icy, it didn't go through me or nothing like that, but it just felt like an icy draft that went by me. And I was like, and yep, there it is, there it is. And it ran up the stairs, I'm assuming, because it just felt different in the house. And yeah, I gotta put my hairs down. Seriously, It's bad. So
I think you ran down there, like you dipped your fists in holy water. You're like, nah, we're squaring up.
Yeah, well, the thing is this. You needed to know that you were going to be safe in that house. And you needed to know that I was doing something about it.
Or at least from the ghosts.
Yeah.
At the very least. Like the bullet holes inside of the house. Like, ugh.
Well, there was nothing I could do about stupid people, shooting, not at us, but they would shoot from the street.
Yeah, stray bullets. Yeah.
And they would they'd hit the house, but they went through a neighbor's window. And luckily he was kind of a hoarder, so that stopped the bullet from, forgot his name.
Bill? No. Bob.
No.
Was it the white guy with the scars?
The guy with the messed up hands. His hands kind of like, he had like it looked like he had gotten like, probably had psoriasis, like really bad psoriasis, and he always tried to make his cookies. It was like, man,
is it powdered sugar or something else? Oh.
So it was, and he always like, go ahead, try him in front of me. I'm like, oh yeah. So that's a scary story.
Yeah, well, it's a little persistent there. It's like,
yeah.
Hey, eat my cookies in front of me.
Yeah, so I was like,
look me in the eyes.
And I did. So I was easily persuaded, and I was like, oh, Jesus Christ, help me. So I ate it.
The best thing you ever tasted in your entire freaking life, though.
If he left skin flakes in that freaking batch, that man was delicious. They were so good. I was like, you should really sell these, but wear gloves. That's what I was thinking. So the whole thing is, you needed to know that, your parent is down there, because Daddy was upstairs working.
Chilling.
No, he was working. And,
it's like reading Calvin and Hobbes. You just hear like blood curdling screaming in the basement. He's like, oh, I wonder what Hobbes getting up to.
Yeah, right.
Chapter 2.
But so that's why I went down there. And I've always been afraid, really afraid of the situations, the ghostly situations I've been put in. But I've never lacked in my faith and belief that I can get rid of it. Because
it's fortunate.
And that's the thing. What do you mean it's fortunate?
I didn't have any of that. I was like, oh, dude, I'm running up these stairs. If I don't make it, I don't make it.
So
I'll tell that story later.
Oh, the one at...
Oh, should I tell it?
No, not now.
Oh, okay.
We got to keep wanting more. No, we're not trying to do teasers or nothing like that. It's just that we're just thinking about it, and I just had a drink. Whole point is, you needed to feel safe in the house. I needed to make sure whatever that hell that was got the hell out of the house.
Didn't we okay, I remember this just so vaguely. In my room, we had a big ass jar of holy water. It was like bigger than a mason jar. It was like a glass urn.
It was a half gallon of holy water, yes.
Yeah.
But the reason why, and we still have it.
Where?
It's in I think in our bedroom in the closet.
What on earth that's in?
Now, the reason why we kept that.
That's what I was baptized in, right?
Yes, we kept the kids' baptismal water.
So it's kind of gross.
No, it's not like you washed your butt in it. It was just like...
They dipped my whole operation in there,
No,
didn't
they didn't. They did your head.
Priests.
They drowned you in it.
They did. Haven't you noticed I don't have a glare in my eyes either?
This is going off the rails, man. So the whole point is, yes, we had a lot of holy water in the house. I've always taken care of the spirits in my house.
For the most part. That you know of.
Yeah, because something's happening in the house now.
Oh, is there?
Yeah, I told you.
In this house?
In this house. We'll talk about it later, because now I like to see his look on his face when he learns the stuff that perhaps I've been shielding you from, because I'm not trying to have you guys freaked out. But you're big now. So it's not, I think you could handle it.
Probably. Maybe.
Anyway, so that's pretty much our Minnock story from Detroit.
We got more of those, but that's the teaser. That's the prelude.
So now this is the thing that gets me. The year after we left, it wasn't a year after. It's totally wrong. Months after we left, the neighborhood, practically caught on fire with crime.
Yeah.
They found 4, I think, dead women in an alley. There was a freaking serial murderer.
Yeah.
Okay. There was so many people. Minnock was always on the news. And my sister calls me and she was like, "You're not going to believe this." And it was Mother's Day.
Oh, yeah.
2011, I want to say.
It was the next people that moved into our house, right?
Yes, the next people who bought our house. It was 2011 Mother's Day, and a murder happened in the house. And my sister was like, "I'm so happy you got out of there." And my thought was, whenever I've left, like ever since I've been married, whenever I leave a home, I know it sounds weird. Maybe. I don't know. I think it's charming that I do this. The
box of matches around just
no.
One of these days.
I thank my dwelling for protecting, whoever was living there. At the time, my first apartment with my husband, I said, "Thank you for protecting, me and Rico and our cute little Yorkie Tinkers." I gotta get a Yorkie. That's going to be an episode, man. That's going to be emotional.
Hunt for the Yorkie.
The Hunt for the Yorkie.
30-part series.
You just don't understand. I'm a freaking Yorkie addict. And the fact that I've been 4 years without a Yorkie.
Don't be surprised if she winds up on the news like serial Yorkie
kidnapper.
Thiefer.
Yeah, that will be me. And I wouldn't even be ashamed of it. I'd be like, "What you in here for? Stealing Yorkie? You?" And just be like, "Psh." That would be me. I think this is too much info. The whole point is this. I took care of my dogs. That one, but she was, I think, a product of incest.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, because...
Got a couple extra chromies to share with the homies, if you know what I'm saying.
Because her and Pat... Well, Belle and Pat were brother and sister, and she looked a lot like Pat. She was girthy like Pat. And, okay. So, thank you so much for joining us here at Sofrita. Hey, I said it.
You did it. You got it.
I know. If you liked what you seen here tonight, please like, subscribe, ring the notification bell if you want to know when we're having new videos. We're trying to get them out like once a week.
Within a month, if possible.
Yeah. So I don't think we're gonna be crazy with it.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
quality over quantity.
Exactly. And after this, I don't know what we're...
This is barely scratching quality.
But I think it was entertaining. Well, I was entertained.
I thought it was fun.
But then again, you haven't. But I've been, having, deliciousness.
I'm halfway down on mine.
Well. Anyway. Thank you. And so long.
Pretty good.